at the top of Daf Lamates Amar Aleph. Today we're going to learn a blot and a half at Bez Hashem tomorrow as well, because I'm not going to be available on Monday, but on Tuesday back to normal schedule. I just won't be here in person. We'll just be on Zoom. Zok the Heilige Gemara. Amar le Kofer le Rabbi Gamliel. A Kofer told Rabbi Gamliel, Elekechem Ganafu. Your God is a Ganaf. He stole a rib from Adam Rishon. Amr le Barte, the daughter of the Kofer, said, Shavke, don't even bother answering my father. Da'anam hadranalei. I'll answer him his question. Amr le, she told her father, Tenuli duchas echad, give me a police officer. We had a break-in. Amr le, what? What? That's a duchas, yeah. A police officer, not a doofus, a duchas. A duchas. That's right. That's where you got the geduchas. At the geduchas, yeah. So, Amalei Lama Leich, why do you need a police? So she said, Listen, Bo Aleinu. We had a big break-in last night, Halayla. The Notlu Mimenu Kichen Shel Kesef. They took all of our silver drugs. And they swapped it out for gold. So he said, that's a problem. Halavai, every day we should have such a break-in where they swap out our silver for gold. I think gold just went up by $25 US an ounce. Veloy Yafa Hoyaloy La Adam Rishon, didn't Adam Rishon get a good deal? They not only meant tzalachas. They took all of one rib from him, and look what he got. Maybe lower your volume if your wife is there. And we have a full service. We have a full service wife who takes care of all our needs. Everybody knows the famous story. What? Everybody knows the famous Bill Cosby, right? He told Rabbi Shalom, I need. He has a whole skit how Hashem Adam told Hashem, I need a Ezer Kenegdoi. So Hashem said, I could make for you a woman. She'll be mishamet you. She'll take care of you. She'll do everything for you. Everything you need. She'll even support you. He says, really? How much is that going to cost? So the Rabbi Shalom said, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. So Adam says, and what can I get for a rib? And the rest is history. But the Maisa, we have everything. Our wives take care of us completely. Amar law. So the carver said, this is what I mean. If it was such a good deal, why did he have to do it while Adam was sleeping? He could have done it behedja. If it was such a great deal, he should have done it right up front. Amar law, let me ask you a question. Did you ever go to a restaurant where you sit inside the kitchen? No, because if you saw the way they prep your food, you wouldn't be able to eat it. I remember when I took a rabbinical training course that was under the auspices of a barrel wine. So one of the components of the course was for kashrus, they took us through the kitchen of the New York Hilton in Manhattan. So we were walking through the room service kitchen. So everyone knows when room service comes, it brings it on a beautiful cart with beautiful tablecloth and those shiny chrome covers and everything is fancy. Well, I was in there and I saw the waiters picking food off the floor, echoed like a filthy floor, and it doesn't look like the polished floors in the lobby. The moment you cross the threshold into the kitchen, it's cinder block, it's dirty, it's filthy, there's junk and garbage all over the place. It's echoed. And they obeyed the 5-second rule. If the stuff was not on the floor for 5 seconds, it goes right back on the plate. But outside, everything looks beautiful. No one, if anyone was in the kitchen, they wouldn't eat there. So Amr Lei, I see li umter, bring me to the bishop, bring me a piece of raw meat, like a shmaka steak. I sula. What did she do with it? In order to prepare it, she put it underneath the coals of the barbecue. You know, you have a cookout, sometimes you have a bonfire. Imagine you take a good piece of meat and you bury it in the coals, it gets full of dirt and ash. Baksha, she put underneath the ash. And then after it was ready, she took it out. Now the baked potato that you wrap in foil mamela, but a piece of meat that you put in there, Amr Le, she told her father, Echel Mahai, eat from this deliciously prepared meat. Amr said, me easily, it's ekeldik. Amr Le, Adam Rishanami, you have a Shakila behedja, if Adam would have seen the operation and what his wife was made out of, Hava me easily, he would have been fakel from it. So the Rebbe did it with the greatest chesed. Amar le kofer le Rabbi Gamliel. A kofer told Gamliel, Yadana, somebody once told my wife actually met Yosy Phillips' mother in the airport once. So she said that ever since my son moved to Toronto, helped 9 chicken. So ever since I got married, my wife became a kofer. She helped 9 kofer. So Amalei Kaifer like Gamliel. They Kaifer because it's Rabbi Gamliel. Yodana Elakaichu my covet. I know exactly what your God does. B'shamayim imal v'loris b'tochos. So there's a famous story with a fellow who sat himself down on a plane. I'm not sure how I'm going to say this on YouTube. He sits himself down on a plane and he wants to sleep. He's about to go on a long trip. He's been relaxing. He's getting his horseshoe pillow on, his headphones. And the guy said, the guy sitting there said, let's have a contest. I'll ask you questions. You'll ask me questions. We'll see who's more knowledgeable. So he says, I'm not really in the mood. I'm traveling. If it's all right, I'm just going to relax. No, please. So the guy got frustrated because this passenger is hacking him at trying. So he said, let me ask you a very simple question. Why is it that when an elephant gives off its tongue, it's a huge piece, and when a dog gets smaller pieces, and when it's deer, it's little balls? How does that work? So he says, that's a very interesting question. I never thought of that. I don't know the answer. So you don't know SHR, and you're gonna ask me other questions? How can this come up on? So that came from this Gemara. To right away, Rabbi Gamliel made believe like he wasn't feeling well. It's not a visnach. He leaned over and goes, what's wrong? I have a son who lives on Lakewood. I miss him terribly. But I want you to show him to me. I want you to bring him to me. Omar, so the Korban says, no problem. I'll be happy to do it. Just tell me where he lives. Omar, do you know? Can you tell me where he lives? Omar, the Ikaba'ara lo yadat. You don't even know where to find my son. The Ikaba'shema yadat, but you can know all of Hashem's chazbonish and himmel. So how come when you figure out the difference between the animal's dung, then you come back and ask me complicated questions. Omar lekayfer the Rabbi Gamliel. Ksivit says, Moina misper like a chavim. The Rebbeinu counts the stars. Big deal. My Rebuse. I can also count the stars. So what did Rabbi Gamliel do? He took a whole bunch of fruit. I think he called them quinces. The article said quinces, I think. Shadinu barbil, and he put it in a shmate, and he was spinning it around his head like a slingshot. You're swinging it around. So he told the kover, Minyanai, tell me how many fruit I have in the bag. So the kover says, sure. Ukminu, stop him so that I can count. Amalei, you know what? Rakia Nami, Hachiadra. The Rakia is also spinning around. All the planets and the stars are in orbit. It's moving. If you can't count a couple of fruit while they're moving, how do you expect to count all the stars?
These aren't proper responses to Cleveland.
There's a lot more that's beneath the surface over here. The Maharsha explains in Hoicha Kabbalah, we don't understand what these Gemaras mean. He's talking about there's a Rabbi Shalom Imal, and there's Rabbi Shalom in the Welt, and it's not the same, and Shtei Rishuyas, it's very complicated stuff. So we're going to read the words and laugh a little bit, but we don't have a clue of what's really going on. Ikadamri, Hachi Amalei, Mani li Kuchvi. He said, I could count the stars. Amalei, really? How about, just tell me how many teeth you have. Emily Kachach V'shinech. Now, if he was a biker or a redneck, that's easy, 3. But he started the Kamahava. So he put his finger in his mouth and started counting his teeth. The Kamanilu. You don't even know what you have in your mouth. The Ikaburakia Yadas, you know what's going on in the heavens. Misha bara harim loy bara ruach. The person or the person, the Rebbeinu Shalom, that created the mountains didn't create the ruach. I know it's from Apostle. So there's the Yotzer for the Harim, and there's the Boyer for the Ruach. So Rabbi Gamliel shot right back. When it talks about HaKadosh Baruch Hu creating man, what does it say? V'yivram v'yitzar. So if you use 2 different Lashonis, are you going to suggest Hakadami Misha Barazeh, Loi Barazeh? Are you going to say it's 2 different creators? And you can't say it's half the body, one half of the body, one God created, one the other. Because there's one little small area, which is a tefach al tefach. There's a mouth and there's ears in a very short, small area. You can't say that's being controlled by 2 separate gods. Therefore, Misha barazeh, loy barazeh, and you could say the same argument. Shenemar, it says hanoite oizen, hello yishma, the imiyoyter ayin, hello yabit. So there's a noita and there's a yoitzer. So you're telling me on one face 2 gods are going to get involved? Impossible. I'm like, yeah, even in that small area, they can carve up the area to take care. Each one takes care of their part. all the gods have to agree exactly when the person should die because you can't have half his face die, not the other half. So it doesn't make sense. Again, these are chuvas that I think are above our head. Amalahu Amgusha, there was a kishif macher who said to Amemar, Mipal Galilo, your top half and the waist and up, the Hormuz was created by Hormuz. Mipal Litasoy, your lower half was created by the Ahormuz. Amalai, so Amemar told back, really? Why in heaven's name would the bottom half, Ahormuz, give a rite of passage to the top half? The top half puts delicious fresh food into its mouth, and by the time it gets to the bottom half, I have to give the rite of passage to something that doesn't smell as good as strawberries, right? So that doesn't make sense. Why would he let him run his waist through his property? Amalei Keser l'Rav Tanchum. The Keser told Rav Tanchum, let's have unity. I want to have a melting pot. I like having everybody should be unified in my country, and therefore ta lahavu kulon la'amo achad. Let's all be one big nation. We'll all be the same. Amri, so Rav Nachum said, great idea. Lachia. The problem is ananda mehalilan le'metzinan mehavik. We're malad. We can't unmalad. So the only way for us to unify is for you guys to all be malad, which was a checkmate because the king wasn't holding by doing that. Atun malizu, why don't you mala everybody? The Havakavasan, then we'll be one big nation. So that was a checkmate. So the king said, you know what, Ratachim, you got me there. Amale Meimar Shaper Kamrit. But the problem is, whenever you one up a king, that you get killed for that. Miyu called the Zachil Malcha. If you succeed in winning over and winning an argument or a debate, Lishadyu Alabiber, you get thrown into the pen with the lions and tigers that are going to rip you to shreds. So do your biber, veloy achlua, and the animals didn't touch him. So clearly, this Anais Hakadosh Baruch was protecting him, but this Apikoros was there and said, natural reasons. They weren't hungry. They're not hungry. Then they took them in and threw him in. Threw him in, and guess what? They were suddenly hungry. So Fragan the Mefarshim, why was he thrown in? What did he do wrong? He didn't one up the king. The Tereshis did. Because he said the king made a mistake. Here, you're trying to punish a guy. You don't put him into a pen when the animals are all hungry, are all well fed. You put him to hungry. So so you have a time of the king, boom, into the beaver. Amalei, they didn't believe in free speech in those days. Amalei koifer l'Rabbi Gamliel. Amrisu, you tell us that kol asara shchinta shari. Wherever there's a minion, there's a shchinta there. Well, you have minyan all over the world. How many shchintas are there? Kamo shchinta iko. So what did Rabbi Gamliel do? Karel Shami, he called the shamus of the koifer, Mochabe Baptaki, slapped him across the neck. You Poshaya, you're not guarding your master's property properly. Amalei Amai Ol Shimshe Bevese, the koifer. How come the son, you let the son infiltrate his house? Amalei, what do you mean I let it infiltrate? Shamsha Akula Almanicha. The sun is everywhere. I can't stop the sun from going in to my master's house. So Rabbi Gamliel said, oh, Madich, the sun, the chad min elef alfei riboy, that's 1 in 10 billion. It's 1 of 10 billion shamshi the kame kutsha berich. It's 1 of 10 billion different meshamshim for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Nicha luchula alma, and that's going to penetrate everywhere. Shchinta the kutsha berichu alachas kama v'kama could penetrate every area where there's 10 people. So when I was saying this Gemara this morning, Moshe Sharf was walking by. So I asked him, so what is the gematria of 10 billion? He said, that's a little bit much. I can't answer that right now. Your God is a trickster. He's a prankster. He's making people crazy. He told Yechezkel to lie on his left side for like a long, long time. The Pasuk says, you're going to be mechaper on the Veris, for every day, there was a very extended period of time that he had to lie on his left side. He couldn't move. And then after that, he said, and then another Pasuk says, now the chilis says Ela, and then v'shechat al tzedcha yamani shenis. Then it says Rabban Beis Yehuda arboim yoim lashon aborim yoim Yom Lashana, Yom Lashana Sata. So for 40 days, he had to go on his right side. So what did he play games with the guy? He was like Twister. Also, Hu Talmida, a Talmud came along, and he asked another question of Rabbi Vo. Amalei, my time of Shviyasu. What is the reason why we have Shemitah? Amalei. So Rabbi Vo said, Hashta Amida L'chol Milsa L'Shavot Tevai. I'm going to tell you one thing that's going to answer both your questions. Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael. Zaroi Ziru Sheish. Plant 6 years out of 7. V'Shemitu 7, and on the 7th year, leave your fields fallow. Why? Kedei shetedu she'aret shalihi. So you should know that it's my land, and you're only planting when I let you. Ve'hen lo yasuken. Klal Yisrael did not listen. Elachatu, they did an avera, and they didn't keep the Shemitah. And because of that, the Golu, they went into Golus. So minhag shalolam, normally if a country rebels against the king, Melech Basavdam Shesar Chalov Medina, Imachzarihu, if it's a brutal regime, Harideg Eskulon, he kills them all. Imrachmanu, if he's more of a merciful king, Harikhetska. But if Imrachman Moli Rachamim, if he's like the Rebbeinu Shalom who's Moli Rachamim, then all he'll do is he will give Yisurim to the leaders, whom Yasser Agadolim Shabed be Yisurim, but not hurt the Eden. Av Kacha Kadosh Baruch Hu, Miyasser Shecheskel, Kedei Lamarek Avanesein Shal Yisrael. It wasn't just prankster, he was having him lie there because that was Mechaper on Klal Yisrael, who didn't leave the fields to lie fallow. Your God is a kohen. How do I know? In Parshat Truma it says Truma, so obviously a kohen takes Truma. So therefore, Kikaver LeMoshe, after he buried Moshe, he became Tamei. He became Tamei Meis, but my Tubble. How did HaKadosh Baruch Hu toivel from his Tumah? And if you can say toivel in water, there is no body of water that could contain your Rebbeinu Shalom. Who could measure the depths of the water? And it says that Hashem could measure it with his little finger. So clearly, because Baruch is much bigger than all the waters of the world, how could he toivel? Amalei, no problem. Benura toivel, he toiveled in fire. Tichsiv kihine Hashem, ba'eish yaboy. Frag the Gemara, umisalka tevilusa benura. Could you toivel in fire? Amalei, sure. Adrabah, ikar tevilusa benura. The main tefillah is with fire. It's only if you can't use fire, you got to use water as a second option. What? Yeah. Yeah, we mix fire and water together. So really this pasuk is talking about if something didn't become usher with libun, like something that's roasted on metal, you could make hagala. But we're darshaning it that really you should go in fire. I remember when I was a little boy in my teens, I would go to Williamsburg for Shabbos to my grandparents, and we would go to the mikveh of Shabbos. So I was there in the Sapman mikveh. It was pretty echoed with all these people, and there was one mikveh that was packed, and there was one mikveh that nobody was in. So I figured I'm going to go into that mikveh because it's clean, it's kishmak. Anyway, I put my foot in. I never screamed so loud in my entire life. It was literally of cooking temperature. It was like bubbling, and I never jumped so. But then I chapped why the mikveh was empty. Zok more weiter. Amalehu mina l'Rebbe Avinu. Because it says in the pasuk, "Umi ka'amcha Yisrael goy echad ba'aretz," meaning Klal Yisrael is unique. No nation is like them. My Rabu Sayu. What's so special about them? Atun nami arvisu b'hadon. You're also included in all of us. Dichsiv kol hagoyim ka'inektai. So you were all included in kol hagoyim, even Klal Yisrael. So you're not unique. Amar lei. So Rabbi Avina answered back, miditchu, from your own neviim, meaning Bilam Marasha, asidu alon, you said about us, dichsiv uvagoyim lo yischashav. We are not considered together with the goyim. You know, there's the famous word. People ask, we come to a kiddush and there's a couple of bottles of brofen, and everybody in the whole measures makes a l'chaim, and at the end of the kiddush there's still some brofen left, right? Yet you give a goy a bottle of brofen, he polishes the whole thing. What it takes all of Klal Yisrael to drink, goy echad baretz, ein goy can do bzofen in a pulminate. Zok to Gemara weiter. Rabbi Lazar Rami, ksiv toiv Hashem lakoil. Hashem's good to everybody. And then it says, only to those who are looking towards him. Somebody has a partner. When he's irrigating, what is he doing? He has a sprinkler. He's not going to do drip irrigation and pinpoint only where it needs to go. He's going to irrigate the whole field because it's easier to do it that way. But when he's doing individual work, like pruning and means I think to dig around the field, to dig around the plant, to aerate it, that's where it's individual work. Will only focus on the best of the plants, So too, yes, Tov Hashem L'Koil, because everybody benefits from the irrigation, so to speak. But the specialty services that a Kodesh Baruch Hu does, that only goes to the Koiva. That's why everybody was created separately. What does the Mishnah say at the beginning of the parak? So I could get to the. That's why everybody was created on their own. To the Rishonim, what was they?
Avoid Rishonim.
No, so I'm looking at the Gemara, at the Mishnah, where the Mishnah says they tell the Edom lefichach when they're lefichach Edom. I'm sorry. Where is it? Where's the Mishnah?
Between the
All right, so where's that Mishnah? Did I lose where that Mishnah was? We just had that Mishnah. Where is it? Oh, here it is.
Probably on the top of Ramadan.
Where's that Mishnah? I can't even see.
The bottom of Ramadan or Aleph, but if this is
No, that's not. Did not. No,
it's
that's
called
not.
top of Ramadan.
Where is the Mishnah that talks about with the Ma'ayim the Edom?
It's fine. Mine's Ramadan and Aleph.
You see it on the bottom?
Yeah, bottom.
Oh, right, over here at the bottom. So it says lefichach kol echad vechad chayiv loimer b'shvil nevramim. Right, v'shema taimru malon tzordois. Okay, so let's see what it says over here on the Gemara. Lefichach kol echad vechad. It says vayavor harina b'makna. When Achav Harosha was killed, there was a singing, but it doesn't say vayavor rina b'makna. That singing broke out. Rather harina. That special rina happened. What special rina are we referring to? Amar Bacha Bacharina. It says in the pasuk ba'avud rishoyim rina. That's pasuk. The Torah tells us, the Navi tells us that when rishoyim get destroyed, there is rina. It's that rina that was. It's that rina. B'tuk tzadikim talois kirya uba'avoid rishoyim rina. That's in Mishlei. That's the rina that occurred when Achav died. Zok to Gemara. Achav ben Imri, bavoid Achav ben Imri, when Achav ben Imri died, Rina, there was celebration. Does the Kodesh Baruch Hu celebrate? Is he happy when Rishoyim fall? This is when Yehoshaphat was going to fight with the Ammonim, and I guess they had betochen even on their way out. They already said, what's missing from this sentence? Kitoy. They should have said Hashem Kitoiv Kiloiv Chasai, but they skipped out Kitoiv. Amar B'Yoni said Mepnimalo never by Da Zu Kitoiv with the Sheina Kodesh Baruch Hu Semech from Apalos and Sholoshoim. Domar B'Shmuel B'Dachman Amar B'Yoni said Ma'adich Sibul LeKarv Zel Zakal Alayla. This is already the Lablian strikes again. We're going to be letting this very soon, right before the Kriyas Yamsuf, that the two camps didn't come together, and we darshan the Malachim didn't get together to say Shira. The Oisa Shah Bikshu Malachi Asharis during the actual drowning of the Mitzrayim. The Malachi Asheris wanted to get together to say Shira. Leimer Shir Lefnei Kadosh Baruch Hu. Amal Kadosh Baruch Hu. Masa Yodai Tovim Bayom. Ba'atim Arbim Shir Lefanai. We did Od Yasher after they already were killed when we were saying Shira for us being saved, but we're not saying Shira while the Mitzrayim are drowning. Amar Beisha Bachanina. Who Einesos? Even though Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't celebrate when Rishoyim get destroyed, Aval Acherim Mesis, but he allows the people who are saved from the Tzara to become happy. Let's look at the pasuk to see what the pasuk says. The pasuk says as follows: If it means Hashem is happy, we would say Yosus, but Yosus means other people are going to be happy to destroy you. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu will never be happy when any of his Beruyim get hurt. Zok the Heilige Gemara weiter. Shmamina. Va'azonis rachtu. The pasuk describes the scene when Achav was killed, and it says as follows. It says, "Vayishtoif es harechev al brecha shoymein." The chariot of Achav got swept away by the brecha of Shoymein, the river or the brook or whatever his body of water was. Vayaloiku aklov mestomoi. And the dogs were licking up the blood of Achav. Vazoinois, and the Zoinois rachat to wash them off. Kidvar Hashem asher diver. So who are these Zoinois? So Zog to Gemara 2 pshatim. The first pshat you can let your wives listen to. Zog to Gemara Vazoinois rachtu Amar Rab Elazar lemarek shtei chezoinois. Two two nevuos were sort of cleaned up. In other words, were fulfilled. And it doesn't mean zoinos, it means chezyonos, the visions. Acha shel Michu, ve'acha shel Eliyahu. B'michu ksiv, im shoiv toshev b'sholem, acha, if you make it back in peace from this war, loy diber Hashem bi, then Hashem never spoke to me. In other words, you're not coming back alive. B'Eliyahu ksiv, b'mokem asher lokagu aklovim is dam nevois, in the same place where the dogs licked up the blood of nevois, that's where your blood is going to be licked up. So these two nevuos were fulfilled at that time. Rav Amar is zoinos mamish. There were zoinos that were getting washed in blood. How did the zoinos get washed in blood? Achav ish mitzunin haya. Achav was an asexual person. He was not interested in having to do with his wife. So his wife had to make him hareini muchanim mazuman to be interested in her. So you know what she would do? She actually painted pornography in his chariot. He had two pornographic images in his merkava, so he should be able to become hareini muchanim mazuman. Kedei sheyira isa v'yischamim. So they were washed in blood from his blood that was spritzing all over the chariot. Zok the Gemara weiter. V'ish moshach v'keshes l'tumay. The person who shot Achav with the arrow, he didn't even know he was shooting Achav. He was doing it tumay. He thought he was shooting somebody. He didn't know. V'yakeh. Rav Elazar if he tumay, he thought he didn't know. Rav Amar, you know what it means? It's l'tamim. Betumim means l'tamim, to complete and fulfill shtei chizyonos. Achav shel Michio v'achav shel Eliyahu. Simin Kra Uzachei Be'edoim. Siv, Vayikra Achav Eloi Vadjo. Every Russia used to have their pet tzaddik to be mishamish them. So who was Achav's pet tzaddik? Oivadjo the Novi. Asher al Habayis. Voivadjo, and the Torah tells us, Voivadjo Hora Yori Hashem Oid. After the Novi tells us that Oivadjo was his misharis, it puts out his resume. Oivadjo was a Yori Hashem Oid. My comment, why is it necessary at this point in the story for the Novi to tell us that Oivadjo was a Yer Hashem? Why is that relevant? My comment, Amr Bitzchok, because Achav had a problem. Achav did not do well. He had a lot of trouble, and he couldn't understand why. And he said, "Amr be Yaakov Ksiv." When Yaakov was by Lavan, what did Lavan acknowledge? Nichashti by Yevrecheni Hashem b'Galecha. I saw through my kishiv that my wild success is because you're here. The Yosef Ksiv by Yevrech Hashem Esbeis Hamitzvah b'Gal Yosef. Potiphar was massively successful because of the bracha that Yosef brought, because they were tzaddikim. Basically, whoever, my personal estate will have a mivrach. It's not doing well. Can't be my fault. It must be your fault. You're not erlich like Yosef and Yaakov were. Shemalo Yirei Elikimata. So therefore, Yotza Baskel Varmer no. Voivadya Ha'Yoris Hashem Ha'oi. So what's the problem? Why wasn't Achav being successful? It's your fault. Your house is so corrupt that even the tzaddik, the Yirei Hashem, can't bring bracha to you. Omar Rav Abba, Godol Shenemer Bavadjo, there's a greater compliment that the Novi pays to Avadjo, Yoshe Mima Shenemer Be'Avram. Greater than Avram. The Ilu Ba'Avram, Loichsiv Moed, it says Avram was Yer Elikim, but it doesn't say Yer Elikim Moed. Ubavadjo Ksiv Moed. Omar Yitzchak, if the Ma Zachal Avadjo the Nevios. Well, why shouldn't he get Nevios? So Rashi speaks out because he was a ger. And the Shechin is not Shoyer Elal Moshpachah Shmichosha Shabi Yisrael. Other people learned that he was poor. So how would he be Zoichet to Nevuah? He was actually from the tribe of Moav. He was from the tribe. I'm sorry, he wasn't from Moav. He was from the tribe of Edom. He was from the tribe of Edom. He was a ger. How was he Zoichet to Nevios? When Yizebel wanted to kill the Nevi'im, he hid them in a cave to save them. In two different caves that each held 50. And the other. Why did he split them into two groups of 50? Amar Rabbi Elazar, he learned it from Yaakov, but Rabbi Bo said, no, much more practical. He couldn't find a cave that held more than 50, so he had to find two caves of 50. Oivadya had one nevuah. The whole Oivadya is one parak, it's one nevuah about Edom, that Hashem is going to bring Edom down. I'm sure most of us remember there was a singer, Matas Yo. He's still sing today, but for a time he was like in the fringe with the yeshivish crowd. He even once sang at a Has concert, but now he's already not part of the Haimish Oilam. And I remember that he sang at a Has concert, and there was such an uproar Hayatochen that when they put out the video, they took it out of the video. so that there should be no
Record.
record of it, which is still a chutzpah. But I'll call upon him. One of his songs was, "From the forest itself comes the handle of the axe, chop 'em down, chop 'em down." You remember that song? From the forest itself comes the handle of the axe. In other words, when they obey, the forest is what its own. So Zok the Gemara, my shna oivadya ladem. Vospunkt oivadya was chosen to say the nevuah about the downfall of Edom. Amar Bitzuk Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, Yovei Avajo Hador Ben Shnei Rishoyim, Avajo who lived between two Rishoyim, Izevel and Achal. He was surrounded by rishos. V'loy lamed b'maisem, and he didn't become poorly influenced from their bad maisim. The novel Esav Rasha Shador Ben Shnei Tzadikim, and they should say nevuah on the downfall of Esav Rasha, who lived between Yitzchak and Rivka. V'loy lamed b'maisem. Omer Afar Makshot Talmid Reb Meir, Mishum Reb Meir, Oivadya Ger Adoim Ilhaya. Oivadya was a ger from the nation of Edom. Hani Domer Inchi Mineu Bei Abba Nezel Bei Narga. Mineu Bei, from the forest comes the axe. So from the forest itself comes the handle of the axe. Chop them down, take down Ammon, take down Edom, kill him. It says that David HaMelech killed Moav. Ayaches Moav, Ayimagdim Bechavel, he lined up the people and he measured 2/3 he killed and 1/3 he let live. Hashkavos so much he lied them on the ground and he measured them, and based on how many lengths, how many let live alive, and that's how he decided who to kill. And Amar B'Yochanan, Mishum B'Shimon Yochi, again Hani Damer Inshi, Mineu Be'Abba, Lezel Be'Narga. David HaMelech, who was from Moav, he was from Rusa Moavia, he was the one who killed out Moav. Yosy Avdimi, Amar Yerach Mitoicha Mesrachas. A piece of meat, a thick piece of meat, when it rots from the inside out. So Moav was taken down, Mineu Be'Abba. Here was the king of Moav and the king of Edom, the Melech Yisrael and the Melech Yehuda ganged up to beat up the king of Moav. And he was desperate, so he made a desperate move. And what did he do? He took his next of kin, he took the Benor Bechor that would have become king after him, and he sacrificed his child. Rav Shmuel, Chadam L'Shem Shemaim, he brought L'Shem Shemaim. He wanted to duplicate Akedes Yitzchak. The Chadam L'Shem Avodah Zarah, he was doing a Miyas Amayis of Avodah Zarah. I understand why it had the effect of causing.
But they both agree that it took place, Yosy? They both agree that it actually took place? Both Rav and Shmuel?
Say that again?
They both agree that it took place, that it was an actual Peta?
It's a pasuk, of course.
Wow. Okay. I know. Listen, it's you can sometimes say Mlachtoi Mamish also, right?
I hear, but no, this really happened. So Dr. Gemara, if it was L'Shem Shemaim, Yiketzav Gadol Yisrael. That's why the pasuk continues and says this was a terrible kidduk on Klal Yisrael because of the Mesiras Nefesh. As a matter of fact, there's someone told me over from Rabbi Yashiv that by 9/11, where they were so successful in creating such havoc in America, the Muslim maniacs, he said it's because they showed a level of Mesiras Nefesh that no one sees. They were literally willing to give their lives up. That's why there's such a kidduk in Klal Yisrael. We don't have that level of sacrifice. But there's a machlokes between Rabbi Yashiv, between Rabbi Steinman, I think he said it, and Golda Meir. Because Golda Meir once said, when will we have peace? We'll have peace when they love their children more than they hate us. So it wasn't a matter of Mesiras Nefesh. It was a manifestation of sinah. But Rabbi Steinman had Andrush gelernt. Ella, if they did this L'Shem Avodah Zarah, why would that be a kidduk on Klal Yisrael? To the contrary, Klal Yisrael looked great by comparison. And my Yiketzav, Dr. Mark Shuv and Levi. Because in fact, the Eden, Rachman L'Tzon, were nichshol in sacrificing their children. It's like the Oivi Doini, right? I don't know what it was. It's not Oivi Doini, it's one of the other ones. One of the other of hers. So the Rabbi Shua Moilech, the Lav and Moilech, right. So the Rabbi Shua Levi Rami, here's a stira. One pasuk says, you didn't copy the goyim. The other pasuk says, you did copy the goyim. So what is it? Dr. Gemara, there are goyim who do good things and there are goyim who do bad things. Which goy did a good thing? Egloin Melech Moav. Because when Gideon came into him, you know what he did? He stood up to honor the representative of Klal Yisrael. He showed respect to Kedusha. That's a good thing. That you don't do. When do you copy? You copy when it's a bad thing, like killing your children. It's like whenever your kids come home from school, they'll come home with every bad habit that they can pick up from their friends in school. How come they never come home with good habits? But that's mamish the taina. You didn't copy any good things, good practice that you found there. It's chemical kolim shabem asisam. So that's why it was an extra kitchen on Klal Yisrael. You could have learned good things from them. The goyim have good things to learn, and you learn the bad things. It says vayisume olav vayashuvu la'aretz. It doesn't say they left, Klal Yisrael left, and they went back la'artzom to their land. It says la'aretz. In other words, they hit the skids. They dropped down figuratively. Amar Rab Chanina bar Papa, Me'oisa Shah Yardu Rishain Shal Yisrael, referring to Klal Yisrael B'Loshen Saginar, L'Madrega Tachtana. Klal Yisrael hit the bottom, and there was nigzer in them terrible oinship. Now we're talking about this is how way you insult. This is how you insult a pretty woman. It said about Avishak Ashunamis, who was a very beautiful woman who was brought to David HaMelech to warm him up. It says V'Hanaira Yafa Ad Ma'od. She was beautiful up to Ma'od. Amr Chanina bar Papa Adayin Lo Higia Lechatzi Yovish Sarah. She didn't come to the beauty of Sarah because by her it says Ad Ma'od, V'Loi Ma'od B'Chlal. But Sarah it says she was Yafa Ma'od. So don't try telling your wife, you're so beautiful, Admoy. She'll hit you over the head with a rolling pin. You have to say, you're unlimited beautiful. Okay, Baruch Hashem, we were zeicher to finish the fourth parak. B'lineder hadnu lach echad din imaminus. B'lineder hadnu lach echad din imaminus. B'lineder hadnu lach echad din imaminus. The next blot that we're going to start learning really is a chazara, because the entire Mishnah that we're about to learn has already been referenced, one part at a time throughout the Masechta. So we know this Mishnah already without even learning it inside. So let's learn it. The Edom, they would question them with 7 questions, 7 chakiras. What were they? Be'ez Shavua. What Shemitah cycle in the Yovel cycle is it? Dina Nefashos. Be'ez Shana. What year was it? Actually, the Friedrich Commission said Echad in the Mamnas, the Echad in the Nefashos get 7 chakiras. Right? Yeah. So really, the Friedrich Commissioner, the first Mishnah of Friedrich Commissioner, say it applies both. But so they say you do need the chiyus for the nemalis, but it's a machlokes time. So b'shevach chiyus, be'ezah shavua, what 7-year cycle in the Yovel cycle out of 49? Be'ezah shana, what year of the Shemitah cycle? Be'ezah chodesh, what month? The kama b'chodesh. So if you have the date of the month, by definition, you have the day of the week. Nevertheless, be'ezah yoim, they wanted to know what day of the week it was. Why? Because sometimes if you just have a date, the people don't put 2 and 2 together to know what day it was. And if they need to be muzam because they were with somebody in a different place, that person might not remember within the date. But if they say Wednesday, oh yeah, I remember Wednesday the guy was with. So these are all the components necessary that will allow Edom to be muzam. Because if we don't have enough information and specificity to be able to be mazam them, then they're pasal Edom. Because Edom have to be yachal azima. Be'ezah shah, what time was it? And be'ezah makom, what place it was. Rabbi Yosy said you don't need 7 questions. 3 questions are enough. Be'ezah yom, be'ezah shah, be'ezah makom. Then the next question they asked him, so these are the chakiras. Now we're going to get into bedikas, just general questions. Makirim atem oisai. Did you recognize the victim? We're talking about a murder. Did you recognize the victim? You sure you know he's not a goy? He's racing boy? Did you warn? Did you give asra to the perpetrator? What if the testimony they're saying is not about a murder? It's about someone who didn't have a desire. So the last me of it. Which getchka was it? Did he bow down to the getchka? Did he be a carbon? We need to know details. Details. The more details you can get, you're meshubach. Maisa ubodak ben Zakai b'uksetein. Ben Zakai, I wonder why his name was Ben Zakai, because he was looking to make the guy Zakai, right? They said this happened under a tree. Oh, really? What type of tree? A fig tree? Were the stems thick or were they thin? That's the detail that he asked of them. Ma bein chakiris lavadikos. Chakiris echadomer en yedea. I do some betela. If in the chakiris, one of these 7 questions, an age that I don't remember, his age is automatically bottled because now you can no longer be mazamim, and if you can't be mazamim, he's a apostlate. But bedikos echadomer en yedea. Vafilu shnayim armim einon yoydin. I do kayemes because they don't have to remember those details. But echad chakiris, echad bedikos, bisman shemakchishin zesa. If there's a contradiction between the 2 edim, then they do some betela. One person said it was on the 2nd day of the month. That's not called a stira. You know why? When one heard that Bezdin only made Rosh Chodesh on day 30, not on day 29, and they didn't catch up on their calendar yet. Or what happened if Zemer B'Shloisha, the Echad Omer B'Chamisha, then they're 2 days apart? That can't be because of not hearing. There's clearly a discrepancy here. And do some potato. What about Echad Omer B'Shtei Shoyis, Echad Omer B'Shalosh Shoyis? They didn't have Rolexes in those days. People knew the time by their position in the sun, which is very hard to be perfectly accurate. So if they're off by only 1 hour, Edusun Kayemes. But what happens if Echad Omer B'Shalosh, Echad Omer B'Chamesh, 2 hours? There, that's enough of a distinction that we would disqualify them for being inconsistent. They do some Matela. But Rabbi Omer still Kayemes because
Not perfect,
I wouldn't be able to know what time it is by looking at the sun.
especially in the summertime where it goes so slow.
I guess so, yeah. Because it's traveling a further range. Echado, but if Echad Omer B'Chamesh, Echad Omer B'Sheva, that for sure no one would confuse. They do some Matela, and therefore it's a contradiction. Shebechamesh Chama B'Mizrach. The 5th hour of the day, the sun is going to be on the eastern part of the horizon. So that's something that couldn't be mistaken. That's an inconsistency. Now, after they put the first aid through this rigorous process, the Arab Machnisin is Hasheni, and they do the same thing. Now, what if these Edim stim? So now you have Edim. Now we got to start deliberating. What is the first thing they do when they deliberate? We learned this already. And remember, we said, what does it mean? The first thing Bezdin says is, don't worry, if you're innocent, we'll uncover that for you, right? Amar echad min ha'edim yesh li l'lamed alav schus. What if one of the edim says, I have a schus to be melamed on him? We're going to see in a minute. They don't accept that. You know why? Because he's in the Gebedavar. He might be afraid he'll be muzam. So he's trying to make sure that his edus won't cause the guy to die. Oy echad min ha'talmidim. That's right. Oy echad min ha'talmidim. What if one of the talmidim, remember we said there's 3 rows of talmidim. What if one of the talmidim said, yesh li l'lamed alav choiva? I have something that, I have an argument that we've been chayvim. Mishas k'no, so you don't listen to him. But Amar echad min talmidim yesh li lamed alav schus. Oh, then you make him the guest of honor. You bring him up to the main dais, and then you let him take as many selfies as he wants to send all his friends that he's sitting there on the main dais. And he got to sit there a whole day. He can post it on Instagram, on Facebook. Everybody can see that he's sitting up there. If in fact his argument is a good, legitimate argument, and we will exonerate the accused. Even if the accused himself suggests that he has an argument that will exonerate himself, but of course, we can't play games. It has to be legit. But true, the game is over. They close it all down. But if not, then if it looks like they want to condemn, they don't vote to condemn that day. They always sleep on it and over the night. And for the rest of the day, we put the Dayanim into pairs so that they'd be able to discuss and debate with each other to get more clarity until the end of the day. And in order that people shouldn't get bloated and be uncomfortable and not be able to focus good on this Shaila, they kept eating to a minimum, and they didn't drink it all. You know what? I think I should become a diet. It's a perfect weight loss thing. And then even on their own, when they go home, they have to constantly think about it. And the next morning you get up early and they come back to bed. Now, the person who yesterday said, I think this guy is innocent. Yesterday I held that he was innocent, and I remain in my position today. Now, this again we learned. The person who was Malamed Chayv yesterday can change his mind even during the deliberations. If someone was thinking to exonerate yesterday, even though he's thinking now to change his mind, he cannot change his mind. But Rav said this only means up until the final vote. By the final vote, about that he has to vote properly. What about Tov B'Davar? What if one of the Dayan forgot what he said yesterday? No problem. Remember, we said they took accurate notes not only of his position, but the svara behind the position, so they would be able to remind him. Now, if they're able to find a schus to exonerate him, patru, and if not, then on the second day, at the end of the second day of deliberations, they take the vote, the roll call. If then Zakai, he has a roiv. But if Shnei Masam Mechayvin Vechad Mazakin, where you only have a roiv of one, you can't condemn a guy with a roiv of one. So what do? Or Vafilu Echad Mazakin Vechad Mechayvin Vechad Ben Yedeya, even if it's 50-50. Vafilu Esri Mishnai Mazakin, if 22 are Mazakin, Oy Mechayvin or a Mechayiv, the Echad Ben Yedeya, and one person says, I don't know. So what you need to do is you add dayanim in pairs in hopes that the new dayanim that you're adding will break up the tie, either to get a majority of two to be mechayiv or a majority of one to be mezakeh.
It's not even a tiebreaker. It's because you need every judge to make a decision.
That's right, so they add two at a time. No, the first thing is you need it to be a tiebreaker. The other cases by any day you need it. You need it.
Never had it before. If you were estimate 9.
Right,
22 that are
Mizakeh,
you still have to add 2.
Correct, because you need to have a best. Right. So Yosivu Adayonim. That's right. If you sit on the fence, you're out, and we replace you. Yosivu Adayonim, V'chama Ma'asifin. They add 2 at a time, Shnaim, until the maximum ad shivim ve'echad. So what if they couldn't break the tie and they got all the way up to 71 Dayonim, and then Shloishim u'Shlishim Mizakin. 36 of Mizaka, Ushloishim v'Chamishim v'Chayvin, Zakai, he goes free because he has the roiv to exonerate him. But Shloishim v'Shishim v'Chayvin, Ushloishim v'Chamishim v'Zakin, so that you can do. It's a hung jury. So then you know what you do? You make them continue to deliberate until one is able to pull the other guy to his side. And the Gemara said, don't think that that's the only option. It could also happen but the Mishnah doesn't use that example because we'd rather pick an example that ends off well. How do you know that there's 7 questions in the chakiras that are asked? We're going to reference 3 psukim, one by Ir Nidachas. The first will be Ir Nidachas. The second one is when someone is Oibed Avodah Zarah, an individual, and the third is by Edim Zaymin. So by Ir Nidachas it says V'darashda V'chakarta. That's 2 loshonis. Now V'shalta is actually called par of a loshon, but V'shalta heitev means also chakira. So those are 3 chakiras as mentioned by Ir Nidachas. V'oimer by a person who's Oibed Avodah Zarah, V'hugod lecha V'shamata V'darashta heitev. So V'darash and heitev is 2 more. So we're at 5, right? 3 from Ir Nidachas, 2 from Avodah Zarah, and then by Edim Zaymin, V'oimer V'darshu Hashavtim heitev, you have a darshu, you have heitev, that's a total of 7. So for Gemara, who said you add them all up? Maybe for Edim Zaymin you need 2, maybe for Avodah Zarah you need 2, and maybe for Nidachas you need 3. Who said you tally them all up and you make them all 7? Ve'ma chado chado, kida kesiva, as they're said in each Inyan by each Avera. And I'll prove it to you that makes sense. Because if you learn one from the rest, all 7 chakirs should have been written by one of these shilas, and then you can export it to everybody. Zok to Gemara, it's not a problem because given the kulu bahade adadi kasifa, since they all in each of these cases, it's telling you that you need chakiras, so they're all by definition similar. Because the Torah told us in these 3 cases you need chakira. Therefore, we consider that kulu bahade adadi kasifa, and therefore we hadadi yalfi. Zok to Gemara, v'chivin the yalfi me'adadi kaman dichsiva b'chadadadi. Since you could learn one out of the other, therefore we look at it like all 7 are in one place or all 7 are in all 3 places, and that's why you need 7 chakiras. But you can't say that because you're assuming that they're all exactly alike, these 3 averis, and therefore it's interchangeable if it's written by one or the other, and therefore they all share. But that's not true. There's a huge difference. Simin paleit sayiv hasra, because Ir Anidachas lahanach tati loy damya. Now, is it a chumrah or is it a kula to make chakiras? It's a kula because you're trying to avoid the death sentence. So Ir Nidachas is more chamerdik than the other 2. So therefore, just because you have the kula of requiring all those chakiras by Avodah Zarah and by Edim Zaymin, who's at Ir Nidachas should also have that kula requiring a chakira. Why is Ir Nidachas more chamer than the other 2? Shekein mamon and palait. We know by Ir Nidachas, all of the money, all of the possessions in the city gets burnt. But when someone is over Avodah Zarah, his next of kin gets all the stuff. You don't destroy his stuff. The same thing with Edim Zaymin, you don't destroy his stuff. So they're much more kuladik. That's why they need chakiras, because you're trying to avoid doing it, because it's a more kuladik avera. But in a very severe avera, who said that you would need the chakiras. Zok to Gemara. So okay, what about avodah zarah? Avodah zarah in a way, avodah zarah is also more chomer than the other two. Shekain b'sayif. We know avodah zarah you get skila for, but edim zaymin and irnidachas is b'sayif. Now irnidachas we know is b'sayif, but edim zaymin it depends on what they were accusing them of. So Rashi says two things. A is the case that the Torah presents by edim zaymin was referring to a case where they were saying that somebody murdered. So it's b'sayif. Rashi also says that even if edim zaymin could sometimes be skila, but lamaisa could sometimes be sayif, and avodah zarah is always skila. So therefore, avodah zarah is more chomer. So just because you need all of these chakiras by irnidachas, edim zaymin, who said you would need by avodah zarah? And edim zaymin also.
What you're saying is funny. It should be just the opposite.
Why?
Because it's so chomer, I would want more chakiras.
No, less chakiras because we want to kill him. We want to make it easier to kill him.
Yeah, but we
want to make it easier to kill him. The worst of we want to make it easier to kill him. Like a maces, we kill him, no questions asked.
Because it's so serious, we want to make sure we got it right.
Well, they're all serious. They're all getting killed. In all cases, they're getting killed.
That's what I would say the opposite. Iridachas, the reason why you have those 7 chakiras is because it's the whole city that's involved, and you're burning their stuff.
So that's why you need.
Right. That's why you need more chakiras.
I hear.
Because it's so serious.
So we're saying forget it. The worse of Avera, the worse Avera it is, the less protections you have when you do that Avera.
You might think about it.
Yeah. Zok to Gemara and Edim Zaymin, there's a way where it's more chomer than the rest. You know why? Edim Zaymin lahanach tat leidomin shekain shvichin esra. Edim Zaymin do not need esra. The others do need esra. So maybe Edim Zaymin we want to punish them fast. Zok to Gemara, you're right. Misvara, we can't say they're all the same because they're not. So how could you apply all of the different chakiras by each of the ones to the others? It must be we have exeris shava. The hatev yalfina meyadadi. Right? We quoted the psukim. Each one had the word hatev in it. Zok to Gemara, but exeris shava mufna. You have to say that the word hatev is extra in all these three places because if it's not, we still have the same questions. You could ask a kasha on exeris shava if it's not mufna. Okay. How are they extra? So we're first going to start. We're first going to start by Edim Zaymin. By Edim Zaymin, what you know what it says by Edim Zaymin? Let's look at the pasuk. By Edim Zaymin, it says, let's turn this back on Amar Aleph. The pasuk is quoted here. The pasuk is quoted V'darshu hashayvtim heitev. So v'darshu hashayvtim heitev is a little bit funny because it should have, instead of using the word heitev, it should have used the word v'chayker because it's a chakira. Why use a code word heitev if you can use the right word, which is chakira? So zog to Gemara, okay. Midahavel l'mechta v'darshu v'chakru. By Edim Zaymin, it should have v'darshu v'chakru. V'shani kra b'diburei v'heitev. Instead of saying chakru, it says heitev. That's not the most typical way to say it. And the fact that Torah picked an unusual word, that creates an extra limud. Shema mina lafnir. Practically more, okay, but it's only mufna by Edim Zaymin. We need a mufna by Irani Dachas, and we also need a mufna by Avodah Zarah. Vakati mufna mitzarechatu. Zoktamar bishlama hanach tarti mufnahu mishum dahavel lemichtav. I can understand 2 of the 3 cases. We know it's mufna by Edim Zaymin. We discussed that already. And we know by Avodah Zarah, v'hugad l'chav shemata v'darash heitev, that's extra. Instead of v'darash heitev, it should have v'darash v'chakarta. But by Edim Zaymin, the word v'chakarta is used already. There's v'darash v'chakarta. So we needed a third word, v'sha'alto, we needed the word heitev for it. So their heitev is needed. So that's not extra. So v'shlam hanachtarti, meaning Edim Zaymin and Avodah Zarah, mufnahu, the word heitev is extra. From the Havel and the Michtav, it could have written choiker. It used choiker already, so it had to find the third word. Heitev is the closest word. Mahavel and the Michtav. Haksiva kulu also. So tomorrow, no. Haksiva kulu. No, hazam nami afnuyim. It's still extra. You know why? Be the Havel and Lichtov, the Arish Tidrash. Instead of saying v'darashta, v'darash v'chayta, says v'darish darashta, v'chayka chararta. You could have said it that way. either Kedaris Tidrai Shoichak or Tachar Vishani Krabadibura Behedev Shemami No Lefnuye. Now, what type of misos over here are we saying you need to have Drish Hakiris? We're talking about Hereg, Sayif, and we're talking about Skila, right? So the question is, how do you know by a mis of Chenek, by an aver of Chenek, how do you know you need Hakiris for that? Zogt Gemara, but also Nechnachem B'Kal V'Chomer, right? Means calling them in Aragon. Madech from a very Chomer Dikamisa, a very Chomer Dikavera, such as Skila and Sreifa, we still need to do Hakiris to try to save them. Kosher gain for a less severe violation that only needs Chenek, surely you try to save them with extra Hakiris. It's the same as before. The lesser the Avera, the more we want to make sure the Edom are good because we want to try to save them. The also Nisrafin, and how will you know Shreifa? The Kavachayim in the Skolin. Okay, we'll stop here and we'll be mamshach tomorrow because this is where I got up to today. So tomorrow we're going to finish this Mem Amud Beis. We'll finish Mem Aleph, and that means on Tuesday we'll learn. Mem Beis. Okay, shkoyach everybody should have a gebenchte zisava.